that was... Hi guys, so today I'm going to be talking about how to tell if someone is lying to you based on their sun sign. So before I get started, I just want to offer, my condolences and my deepest sympathy for anybody that had any connection to what happened in Orlando over the weekend. Both events with Christina Grimmie, who I personally have been subscribed to for years, before she was on The Voice and any of that, so I just found that totally shocking and heartbreaking. And then what happened at the nightclub the following evening, I just wanted to offer my sympathies, and I didn't feel right making a video today and not mentioning that, and it's definitely been on my mind and weighing on my heart. I'm just very sorry for anybody that is affected by what happened in either of those situations in Orlando over the weekend. Okay, so let's get right into today's video. So there's definitely a lot of ways to tell somebody is lying based on their body language. I do find that fascinating, but since this is an astrology channel and I'm interested in astrology, I thought it would be interesting to kind of look at the different signs and how to tell if they're lying, or kind of like how to get them to admit to a lie. So I'm going to go right down the list from Aries to Pisces. So starting with Aries, I think an Aries kind of lies, to impress, and I think part of why an Aries lies might be because they actually believe what they're saying is true, even though maybe they're not. So they might exaggerate to kind of make themselves sound better. They might just make something up on the spot without really thinking about it. So in order to tell if an Aries is lying, you want to pay attention to their actions instead of their words. So the actions of an Aries are going to tell you the truth way more than their words are, and I think sometimes an Aries might get caught up with saying things that aren't necessarily true in the moment. So if they're saying something but their actions aren't, matching up with that, then that's a clear indicator that an Aries is lying. I believe Taurus would most likely lie to get out of something, they don't really feel like doing something, they don't want to be involved in something, and they might just kind of lie their way right out of that. Since a Taurus can be rather stubborn and, might not want to admit to a lie they've told, you don't want to, flat out accuse them of lying. If you accuse them directly, they're a lot more likely to stick to whatever lie it is that they might be telling, and, they'll want to be right and they won't want to admit that they were lying if you're just accusing them right to their face. I think if you really want to tell if a Taurus is lying, you want to maybe use reverse psychology. So, say they tell you that they can't go to a concert that they already agreed to go to, and then they said something came up. Well, if you, instead of say, you're lying, nothing came up, you just don't want to go, instead of using that approach, if you say,
that concert seems pretty lame, I don't really want to go either, so...
that kind of a thing, to see if maybe they agree with you, that's a way to kind of tell if a Taurus is lying. And excuse my random examples, it's just kind of what is popping into my mind. A Gemini is definitely a sign that you're probably going to catch in a lie at some point or another, and part of the reason I think that they lie is to impress. They're naturally storytellers, so a lot of their lies might stem from exaggerations, and once they kind of tell one lie, it might turn into another, which turns into another and another, and they kind of lose track. If you kind of want to catch Gemini in a lie or find out if they're not being totally truthful, what you want to do is confuse them with the details. So if you have been paying attention to things that they're telling you, you kind of want to confront them with actual things that they've said and kind of get them to maybe agree to one thing that would contradict another thing that they said, if that makes sense. So kind of entangle them in their own web of lies to get the truth out, because a Gemini is not necessarily going to remember every lie they've told, and they aren't really the best liars. Like I said, they kind of get caught up in the moment. So if you can be focus on the details and kind of point them out to the Gemini and, almost confuse them, then you're more likely to find out if they are, in fact, lying to you. I think a Cancer is more, going to lie to save money. They might be the type to lie to avoid a conflict, and they're most likely going to be the type to tell a white lie because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings. If you feel like they're lying to you and you really want to know if they are, if it's a white lie, I would just let it go. But if you feel like it's something that's more important with the Cancer, this may seem a little harsh, but you want to, directly insult the Cancer. And the reason I think that this would get some honesty out of the Cancer is because they're so sensitive, And if you insult them and make them, you know, hurt their feelings, they're a lot more likely to be honest with you in response because you made them mad and you, you know, kind of attacked their sensitive side. So I think if you want to tell if a Cancer is lying, you know, again, kind of it's kind of mean, but insult them and see if the truth comes out. A Leo is definitely one who, like a Gemini, might lie, you know, as an exaggeration, but the difference is they want to exaggerate themselves and they want to make themselves maybe appear better than they are, and they're, you know, whatever. I'm sure they're great as they are, but they want to kind of elaborate things. They're not really the best liars. They kind of just go with the flow, and if something sounds good, they might, like, just kind of throw it out there to impress somebody, kind of like the same with an Aries. They also might lie to avoid trouble because a Leo may, you know, find themselves getting involved in more trouble than some of the other signs. They may lie to kind of like avoid getting themselves into trouble. A good way to find out if a Leo is lying, you definitely don't want to call them out in front of like a big group of people because they are just never going to admit to lying in front of a big group. They hate to be embarrassed, and in order to save face, they would definitely just continue their lie. If you approach them one-to-one, you have a much better chance of finding out if they are in fact lying. Another way to get a Leo to tell you the truth is act like you already know. So if you kind of like bluff with a Leo, and you do a little investigating and you find out like the truth and then approach them and make it known that you actually know the truth, they're a lot more likely to be honest with you. Virgo. Virgos really aren't big liars, so when they do lie, it's pretty hard to tell because Virgos can be really good with maintaining details and, you know, remembering things that they said, so it's a lot harder to catch a Virgo in a lie. What you don't want to do, though, is try to catch them. You don't want to try to trick them into, you know, exposing their lie, because it's probably not going to work. They're pretty good at lying. They don't lie a lot. They don't lie often, but when they do, they can be pretty successful with it. So you don't want to try to trick them into, you know, fessing up. If you want to know if a Virgo's lying, just ask them and give them a reasonable explanation as to why you think they're lying and why you want to know the truth. And if you can do that and have a rational conversation with them, you're a lot more likely to get the truth out of them if you believe that they are lying. Libras will definitely lie to avoid conflict, to kind of stay out of trouble with other people. They might like kind of, you know, make some things up or not tell you the whole truth in order to kind of like keep the peace. You want to kind of have a similar approach as you do with a Taurus. Maybe use some reverse psychology. Don't directly accuse them because they will, you know, kind of feel like that's the start of a conflict and they'll probably continue their lie. So if you approach them gently, you act like it's no big deal if it's a lie, and you kind of just, you know, are very like calm and cool and collected, and just, you don't act like it's a fight, you don't act like you're going to be mad, even if you are, you're a lot more likely to figure out if a Libra is lying. With a Scorpio, the thing is that a Scorpio is not somebody that's going to be like this big intentional liar, constantly making things up. A Scorpio is more likely to lie based off of omission, but the thing is that a Scorpio can be like a good liar. Like I said, they won't like just flat out make something up. It's not really in their nature to do that. So what you want to do is kind of like bring up what you think they might be lying about and see their reaction to it. If they, you know, have a rational conversation with you and they are willing to talk about it, maybe they're not lying. But if they dodge you and kind of like change the subject and you kind of start to feel a little bit manipulated, that's definitely a sign that a Scorpio is lying. They aren't necessarily going to come out and say that they're lying, but they might try to change the topic of discussion around, like switch you into talking about something else, and just kind of like avoid the fact that you might think they're lying. And they're good at it, but if you're paying close attention and they're not admitting to their lie, but they're not denying it either, just kind of like dodging it, that's a sign that they could definitely be lying. A Sagittarius, probably the least likely sign to lie. They really just tend to be very blunt and honest, and they don't really see a good reason to lie. If they do lie, they really aren't usually good liars, so it can be a little easier to tell with a Sagittarius. One thing a Sagittarius will do, and it's a little bit similar to a Scorpio, is if you are trying to ask them if they're lying about something, you're trying to catch them in a lie, they might kind of like deflect the situation and kind of try to blame someone else. And they might be like,
oh yeah, no, like, well, didn't you see so-and-so doing that same thing?
like they might like kind of just like dodge it a bit, but like kind of try to deflect. Also, if their story kind of just seems like a little bit off, it probably is. Like I said, a Sagittarius is used to being pretty honest, so if they seem to be having a hard time telling a story and like the details keep changing, then it's much more likely that they are lying. Capricorns, they tend to also be good liars because, you know, they can be good manipulators. A Capricorn would usually lie to kind of like protect their image or save face, and they might lie to kind of like make you think that they're different than they are, if that makes sense. If you want to know if a Capricorn is lying, there's a couple different approaches. If they feel like they can deeply trust you, like if you're one of their close friends or someone really close to them, approach them in a really like warm way, like not like you're angry, kind of like with the Libra, and they might fess up to you. If you call them on their lie or you kind of guilt trip them, they might be more likely to admit it, because Capricorns actually don't like to just lie to lie. But again, if they're trying to protect their reputation, it's going to be hard for them to admit that they did maybe make something up. So if that's the case, just approach them really warmly and make them feel comfortable, and they're more likely to open up to you. If you're not a close friend, you might just want to go ahead and ask somebody they're close to. I don't know if you're going to get the truth out of them, but you might have a better chance of asking a close member of a Capricorn's life. Aquariuses can be quite good liars. Honestly, I think this is one of the harder signs to catch in a lie, so you might have to do some research and a little investigating here to find out if an Aquarius is lying. They're not necessarily going to be upfront with you, so if you feel like they're lying, ask around and really look into the situation, because you might not ever get the truth from an Aquarius if they are in fact lying. I mean, you can ask them and they might go ahead and be honest with you, but I would say really investigate the situation, look into it before you ask them anything, if you really feel like an Aquarius is lying to you. Pisces. A Pisces might lie, you know, because they're kind of like in a fantasy situation and they feel like it's the truth. They might lie to avoid a conflict. Or to avoid doing something, you know, like to avoid anything, they might make up a lie. If you're really direct with them and you kind of like set them in reality before, you know, you ask them if they're lying, you might have a better chance. Another thing you can do with the Pisces to find out if they're lying is like make them feel bad and kind of guilt trip them. Because if they feel sorry for you and they feel like they're hurting you by lying to you, they're way more likely to fess up. So make them understand that you are upset about whatever it is you think they're lying about, and if they honestly feel like they've done something to hurt you and want you to feel better, they're a lot more likely to be honest with you and say, yeah, I did lie. So that is how to tell if somebody is lying to you based on their sun sign. Hopefully this video could be helpful to you in some sort of way. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do that. I post new videos every very late Monday night / early Tuesday morning, and as always, have a good day or night.
Sorry, I like literally couldn't breathe this entire video. Like, if you don't know, I am pregnant, and all day I've literally just been like struggling to breathe. So if you notice I seem a little short of breath, that's the reason.